The day I lost everything started like any other Tuesday at Bradley's bakery. The bell chimed as customers filed in for their morning coffee and pastries, the aroma of fresh-baked bread filling the air. I had no idea my husband was about to destroy 15 years of my family's hard work in less than 15 minutes. I'm Tatum, and until that morning, I thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. Morning, sunshine. Darren's voice carried across the bakery as he strolled in, pristine suit and perfect smile intact. He kissed my cheek, but something felt off. The way he glanced around the shop, like he was cataloguing every detail. "You're here early," I said, sliding a tray of croissants into the display case. "Thought you had that big meeting today." "Oh, I do." He drummed his fingers on the counter. "Actually, that's why I'm here. Your dad around?" Before I could answer, Dad emerged from the kitchen, flour dusting his apron. "Darren, good to see you, son." What happened next plays in my mind like a slow-motion car crash. Darren pulled out a stack of papers, speaking in that smooth voice he used to close deals. "So, I've been looking over the bakery's finances, and I think I've found a solution to your cash flow problems." Dad's face fell. "What cash flow problems?" "The ones I discovered while reviewing your books." Darren's smile never wavered. "You gave me access last month, remember? For that loan application." The rolling pin I was holding clattered to the floor. "What loan application?" "Honey, this is business talk," Darren said, not even looking at me. "Your father and I have been discussing options." "Like hell you have." I stepped between them, but Dad grabbed my arm. "Tatum, wait. Maybe we should hear him out." The next 10 minutes were a blur of legal jargon and thinly veiled threats. Darren had somehow convinced my father that we were on the brink of bankruptcy, which was news to me, considering I handled most of our accounting. He presented a rescue package that would save the bakery, requiring only that we sign over controlling interest to his company, Artemis Eateries. "This is insane," I said, scanning the documents. "Dad, we're not in financial trouble. He's lying." Actually, Darren pulled out another paper. "You are. The health department found several violations last week. Major ones. They're threatening to shut you down." My blood ran cold. "We passed inspection 3 weeks ago." Funny how things change. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw the real Darren, calculating, cold, victorious. "You did this," I whispered. "You set us up." "I'm trying to help," he said loudly, for Dad's benefit. "Without this deal, you'll lose everything. With it, you keep working here. Same as always, just under better management." Dad's hand shook as he reached for the pen. "We don't have a choice, do we?" "Dad, no." I grabbed his arm. "He's stealing our bakery." "I'm saving it," Darren corrected. "Sign here, please." I watched in horror as my father signed away our legacy. The bakery my grandparents had opened in 1962, where I'd learned to bake my first cookie, where Mum had worked until the day she died, gone with a few strokes of a pen. Darren gathered the papers, tucking them into his briefcase. "I'll have my team here this afternoon to begin the transition. Don't worry, you'll both still have jobs. For now." The bell chimed again as he left, leaving behind the scent of his expensive cologne and the ruins of my life. Dad slumped against the counter, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "What have I done?" he whispered. I couldn't answer. I was already pulling out my phone, calling Avery, my best friend, and the only lawyer I knew. "He can't do this," I said when she picked up. "There has to be a way to fight it." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she promised. "Don't sign anything else." But it was too late. By the time Avery arrived, Darren's legal team had already taken control. Within a week, Dad was retired, with a pittance of a severance package, and I was informed my services were no longer required. The final twist of the knife came that night when I returned home to find Darren packing his bags. "You understand, right?" He didn't even look guilty. "It's just business, nothing personal." I stood in our bedroom doorway watching him fold his designer shirts. "How long have you been planning this?" Does it matter? He zipped his suitcase. You were never going to be enough, Tatum. The bakery was just the beginning. I'm building an empire. He brushed past me, then paused. Oh, and I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce. Try not to make it messy. The front door clicked shut, and I sank to the floor, my world imploding around me. But somewhere in the midst of my tears, something else began to burn. Determination. Darren thought he'd broken me, but he'd just lit a fire. I pulled out my phone again, this time calling Valeria, the restaurateur who'd been trying to hire me for months. Still interested in teaching me the business? I asked when she answered. Always, she said. Why? I smiled through my tears. Because I'm going to need to know everything about running restaurants. Every single thing. You're holding the knife wrong, Valeria said, adjusting my grip for the 100th time. A chef's knife is an extension of your arm, not a weapon. 6 months had passed since I'd lost the bakery, and here I was, starting from scratch in Valeria's upscale Manhattan restaurant. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd gone from master baker to kitchen novice overnight. Sorry, I muttered, repositioning my fingers. Old habits. Speaking of old habits, Valeria leaned against the prep station. Your ex-husband's new acquisition is making waves. Did you see the article in the Times? My knife slipped, nearly taking off a fingertip. No, I've been avoiding the news. Smart girl, but you should know he's expanding, buying up small restaurants, turning them into chain concepts. People are calling him the fast casual king of New York. I focused on dicing onions, letting their sting excuse the tears in my eyes. Good for him. No, Valeria grabbed my wrist, forcing me to look at her. Not good for him. Good for you. Every empire has weak spots, Tatum. You just need to learn where to look. A commotion from the dining room interrupted us. Chef! One of the servers burst into the kitchen. Levi Hoffman is here again. Valeria cursed under her breath. 3rd time this week. He's trying to poach my staff. Levi Hoffman, I asked. Rising star in the restaurant world. Aggressive expansion, but quality-focused. Unlike your ex. She straightened her chef's coat. Stay here. Learn something. But I followed her anyway, curious about this rival restaurateur. Through the kitchen door, I watched Valeria approach a tall man in an impeccable suit who was chatting with one of her line cooks. Levi, Valeria's voice could have frozen hell. This is getting old. He turned, flashing a disarming smile. Valeria, just having a friendly chat with your talented staff. My staff isn't interested in your offers. Actually, the line cook interrupted, I was considering... Marcus, Valeria's tone left no room for argument. Back to work. As Marcus skulked away, Levi's eyes landed on me. New face? Off limits, Valeria snapped. I don't know, I stepped forward, ignoring Valeria's warning look. I might be interested in hearing an offer. Levi's eyebrows shot up. Really? And you are? Tatum, former owner of Bradley's Bakery. Recognition flickered across his face. Ah, Darren's ex. Heard about that mess. He studied me more carefully. Interesting career change. Necessary one, I corrected. Your turn. Why are you really here? He glanced at Valeria, then back to me. Coffee, there's a place around the corner. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Levi in a quiet cafe, watching him doctor his espresso with precise amounts of sugar and cream. So, he said, you're learning the restaurant business to get back at Darren. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He leaned back. Look, I respect revenge as much as the next person, but you're going about it wrong. I'm not. Save it. He pulled out his phone, showing me a spreadsheet. Darren's expanding too fast, taking on too much debt. His concepts are flashy, but shallow. In 18 months, maybe 24, it'll all start falling apart. I stared at the numbers. How do you know this? Because I've been watching him, waiting. Levi's smile turned predatory. And now I'm wondering if you'd like to help speed up the process. Why would you want my help? Because you know his weaknesses, and because watching him lose everything to his ex-wife would be... He sipped his coffee. Poetic. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Avery. Turn on the news now. Levi noticed my expression change. Problem? I pulled up a news site, and there it was. Artemis Eateries announces IPO plans. Darren Holmes set to take company public. Well, Levi said, reading over my shoulder, that changes things. How so? Because now there's a clock ticking. Once he goes public, taking him down becomes much harder. He pulled out a business card. I'm offering you a job, Tatum. Real responsibility, real learning opportunity, but you need to decide fast. I thought about Valeria, who'd given me a chance when I needed it most. I can't just... Yes, you can. He stood up. Call me by tomorrow if you want in. Oh, and Tatum. He paused at the door. The knife skills will come. Focus on learning the business side. That's where wars are really won. I sat there long after he left, turning his card over in my hands. Finally, I called Valeria. He offered you a job, didn't he? She said before I could speak. Yes. She sighed. Take it. Levi's an ass, but he's brilliant at business, and that's what you need right now. You're not mad? Mad? Honey, I'm proud. You're finally thinking like a shark instead of a minnow. She paused. Just promise me one thing? What's that? When you take Darren down, make it spectacular. Some of us will want front row seats. I smiled, already dialing Levi's number. That's a promise I intend to keep. You're not going to believe this. Avery burst into my office at Levi's restaurant group, waving her tablet. Artemis Eateries is in trouble. I looked up from the financial reports I'd been studying for the past year. What kind of trouble? The delicious kind. She perched on my desk, pulling up an article. Their IPO filing revealed some interesting numbers. Their growth isn't what Darren's been claiming. 3 of their newest locations are hemorrhaging money. Show me. I grabbed the tablet, scanning the figures. After 18 months working under Levi, I could read between the lines of financial statements. What I saw made me smile. Their debt-to-equity ratio is insane, I muttered. He's been borrowing against future earnings that don't exist. Exactly. Avery grinned. The stock price is tanking before they even go public. Investors are pulling out. My phone buzzed, Levi calling. Did you see? I asked when I picked up. Get to my office, now. 10 minutes later, I sat across from Levi, watching him pace. This is our moment, he said. Darren's vulnerable. His investors are spooked. He needs a white knight. And you want to be that knight? He stopped pacing. No, I want you to be. I blinked. What? Think about it. You've learned every aspect of this business. You've turned around 3 failing restaurants in the past year. Your name carries weight now. But I don't have that kind of capital. No, he sat down, sliding a folder across his desk. But I do, and I'm willing to back you. I opened the folder to find acquisition papers. You want me to buy Artemis Eateries? I want us to buy it together. You'll be the face of the deal. I'll be the silent partner. You get controlling interest. I get a healthy return on investment. He leaned forward. Plus, I get to watch Darren Holmes sell his company to his ex-wife. That's worth the price of admission alone. My hands shook as I read the terms. This is real? Very, but we need to move fast. Word is Darren's meeting with other potential buyers next week. I pulled out my phone, dialing Avery. How quickly can you review an acquisition proposal? Give me an hour, she said after I explained the situation. And Tatum, this is it. This is your chance. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, paperwork, and sleepless nights. Levi's team worked around the clock, preparing our offer. Finally, we were ready. Remember, Levi said as we walked into the Artemis Eateries headquarters, let me do the talking. You're just here as my restaurant operations expert. The conference room was packed with executives, lawyers, and one very nervous-looking Darren. He did a double take when he saw me. What is she doing here? He demanded. Ms. Bradley is my chief operations officer, Levi said smoothly. Her experience in restaurant turnarounds is crucial to our proposal. I sat silently, watching Darren squirm as Levi presented our offer. It was generous enough to be tempting, but structured to give us complete control. "This is ridiculous," Darren interrupted halfway through. "We have other interested parties." "Who?" Levi asked. "The Singapore group that pulled out yesterday? Or the private equity firm that's lowballing you?" He smiled. "Face it, Darren, we're your best option." One of the board members cleared his throat. "Mr. Holmes, he's right. We need to consider this offer seriously." The meeting dragged on for hours. I watched Darren's facade crack bit by bit as his board members and lawyers increasingly sided with our proposal. Finally, they called for a brief recess. Darren cornered me in the hallway. "What are you playing at?" "Playing? I'm not playing anything. I'm doing business." I met his gaze steadily. "Isn't that what you taught me? It's nothing personal." His face reddened. "You think you can run my company?" "Better than you have." I stepped closer. "Your books are a mess, Darren. Your concepts are stale. You've been so focused on expansion that you forgot about quality, just like you did with the bakery. The bakery was failing. The bakery was fine until you fabricated health violations and manipulated my father." I kept my voice low, controlled. "You wanted an empire? Congratulations. You built one on sand and now it's crumbling." The board members filed back in before he could respond. I took my seat, watching as they announced their decision to accept our offer, pending final negotiations. Levi shook hands with everyone while I gathered my papers. As we left, I paused at the door. "Oh, Darren," I turned back. "Don't worry, I'll have my lawyer contact you about the transition. Try not to make it messy." Outside, Levi burst out laughing. "That was beautiful. Did you see his face?" But I wasn't celebrating yet. "We still have to turn these restaurants around." "We will." He hailed a cab. "But first, we're going to celebrate. Dinner at Valeria's?" I nodded, finally allowing myself to smile. "Perfect. I hear she makes an excellent revenge dish, served cold." "All rise." The boardroom fell silent as I walked in, heels clicking against the polished floor. 30 pairs of eyes followed me to the head of the table. Executives, managers, and district supervisors of Artemis Eateries, all waiting to meet their new CEO. "Good morning," I said, remaining standing. "I'm Tatum Bradley. As of 9 a.m. today, I'm your new chief executive." A murmur rippled through the room. I spotted Darren at the far end, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He was required to stay on as a consultant during the transition, a detail I'd specifically requested in the contract. "Let's address the elephant in the room," I continued. "Yes, I'm Darren's ex-wife. No, this isn't about revenge." I paused. "This is about survival. Your jobs, this company's future, depend on what happens in the next 6 months." I clicked through my presentation, displaying graphs of plummeting profits and rising costs. "These numbers tell a story. It's not a happy one." "With all due respect," a middle-aged manager interrupted, "we've been hitting our growth targets." "Through unsustainable expansion and cost-cutting," I finished for him. "When was the last time you ate at one of our restaurants, Mark?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Last month." "Try again. Our records show you haven't used your employee meal benefit in over 6 months. Neither have most of you." I looked around the room. "You don't eat at your own restaurants. That's problem number 1. Darren stood up. "This is absurd. Our concepts are..." "Failing," I cut him off. "Sit down, Darren. You're here to observe, not speak." The room tensed as we stared each other down. Finally, he sat, his face flushed with anger. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "Every executive in this room will spend the next week working in our restaurants. Front of house, back of house, every position. You'll eat every item on the menu. You'll talk to customers. Then we'll meet again." "That's not in our contracts," someone protested. "Your contracts are being revised. Those who don't wish to participate can submit their resignations by end of day." The room erupted in whispers. I waited them out. "One more thing," I added. "We're reopening Bradley's Bakery." Now Darren did jump up. "You can't do that. The lease?" "The lease transferred with the acquisition," I smiled. You really should read contracts more carefully, Darren. Meeting adjourned. I gathered my papers as the room cleared out, executives muttering among themselves. Darren lingered, waiting until we were alone. You're going to destroy everything I built, he said. No, I'm going to fix what you broke. I met his eyes. Starting with the bakery. This is about your father, isn't it? This is about doing business right. I walked to the door, then turned back. By the way, you start at the downtown Brooklyn location tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. The manager there runs a tight ship. I'm not working in a restaurant kitchen. Then clear out your office by 5. I checked my watch. I have another meeting. Don't be late tomorrow. In the elevator, my hands finally started shaking. Avery was waiting in my new office. How'd it go? She asked. About as expected. I collapsed into my chair. Half of them will probably quit. Good. Fresh blood is exactly what you need. She handed me a coffee. Your father called, by the way. He saw the news about the bakery. My stomach tightened. What did he say? He wants to meet. Says he has some ideas about the reopening. Tears pricked at my eyes. Dad hadn't baked since the day we lost the bakery. Tell him yes, whenever he wants. My phone buzzed. Levi texting, watching the stock price climb. Well done, partner. Another buzz. Valeria. Dinner tonight. We need to celebrate properly. A knock at the door interrupted my replies. Jennifer, Darren's sister, stood there looking uncertain. Can we talk? She asked. I gestured to a chair. Of course. Avery excused herself as Jennifer sat down. I know Darren hurt you, she said, but these people, their jobs, are safer with me than they were with him, I finished. I'm not here to destroy the company, Jennifer. I'm here to save it. By forcing executives to work in kitchens. By reminding everyone what this business is really about. Food, service, people. I leaned forward. Stay. Help me fix this. You've always seen the problems your brother couldn't. She studied me for a long moment. The bakery. Will you really reopen it? Come see for yourself. I stood up. I'm heading there now to check on renovations. Jennifer hesitated, then nodded. Okay, show me. As we rode to Brooklyn, I thought about all the pieces falling into place. The bakery would rise again, but this time as the heart of something bigger, something better. Darren had taught me about empire building, but he'd forgotten the most important lesson. Empires built on greed collapse. Empires built on quality endure. Tomorrow, Darren would learn that lesson the hard way, starting with a 6 a.m. shift in his own failing restaurant. Is this live? I asked, staring at my phone screen where a viral video was playing. It showed Darren, still in his expensive suit, having a meltdown in one of our restaurant kitchens. Oh, it's live, Avery confirmed, barely containing her glee. And trending, our restaurant Karen is currently number 3 on Twitter. In the video, Darren was red-faced, jabbing his finger at a teenage line cook. Do you know who I am? I built this company. Sir, the cook replied calmly, the dishes still need to be washed. Company policy says everyone helps during rush hour. I'm not touching those dishes. Get a dishwasher. We're short-staffed because corporate cut our labor budget last month. Your policy, sir. I watched as Darren stormed out, knocking over a stack of clean plates in the process. The video ended with the line cook looking directly at the camera and deadpanning. Thanks, corporate. 3 million views and counting, Avery said. The comments are brutal. My phone rang. Jennifer. Have you seen? I'm watching it now, I said. He's completely lost it. He's at my apartment ranting about how you set him up. I didn't set up anything. He did this to himself. I paused. Is he drinking? Yeah. And he's talking about going to the press, exposing some truth about you. I smiled. Perfect. Let him. Perfect. Tatum, what are you planning? Just make sure he stays angry, and keep recording if he says anything interesting. After hanging up, I turned to Avery. Time for phase 2? She nodded, pulling out a folder. The audit results came back. You're going to love this. 2 hours later, I sat in my office with a reporter from the Wall Street Journal. These documents show systematic mismanagement under the previous leadership, I explained, sliding over the audit reports. Cost-cutting that compromised food safety, labor law violations, even evidence of supplier kickbacks. The reporter's eyes widened as she read. This is comprehensive. We're implementing immediate changes, I continued, starting with restoring proper staffing levels and quality standards. The previous management's focus on rapid expansion led to these issues. Speaking of previous management, she looked up. Your ex-husband's video is causing quite a stir. Yes, it's unfortunate, but it illustrates exactly why we're making these changes. Every executive is required to work in our restaurants now. Some are adapting better than others. And the bakery reopening, that's your family's original business, correct? It is. We're returning to our roots: quality food, fair treatment of workers, sustainable growth. I smiled. Would you like to see it? The renovation is almost complete. The bakery was buzzing with activity when we arrived. Dad was there, supervising the installation of new ovens. This is where it all started, he told the reporter, pride evident in his voice. And where it's starting again, thanks to my daughter. The reporter scribbled notes as Dad showed her around, explaining our vision for combining traditional baking with modern restaurant concepts. I stepped outside to take a call from Levi. Your ex is on CNBC right now, he said, making a complete fool of himself. I pulled up the live stream. Darren was sweating under the studio lights, his tie askew. She's destroying everything, he was saying. She's turned my own sister against me. She's spreading lies. Mr. Holmes, the anchor interrupted, your former company's stock has risen 15% since Ms. Bradley took over. The market seems to approve of her changes. The market doesn't understand. He stopped, seeming to realize how he sounded. This is a personal vendetta. Is that why you're here instead of working your scheduled shift at your former restaurant? The anchor's tone was devastating. We have reports you walked out mid-service, leaving your staff short-handed. I ended the stream, turning back to the bakery. Through the window, I could see Dad teaching the reporter how to properly shape a croissant, his hands moving with the confidence I remembered from childhood. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. He's completely melting down, talking about leaving the country. Don't let him, I replied. The board still has questions about those supplier contracts he signed. Another buzz. Valeria this time. Just saw CNBC. Karma's a beautiful thing, isn't it? I watched Dad laugh at something the reporter said and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with revenge. This was about more than getting even. This was about rebuilding something real, something lasting. The reporter emerged, tucking away her notebook. One last question, she said. What would you say to those who claim this is just about revenge? I looked through the window again, at Dad showing a young baker how to use our old family recipes. Revenge is about destroying things, I said. This is about creating something better from the ashes. That's not revenge. That's redemption. She nodded, understanding. The story runs tomorrow. Perfect timing, I smiled, just in time for the bakery's grand reopening. And Darren's final fall from grace. The Wall Street Journal article hit like a bomb. I sat in the newly renovated Bradley's bakery, watching the fallout unfold on my laptop, while the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Board members demand investigation into former CEO's practices, one headline screamed. Restaurant empire's dark underbelly exposed, declared another. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. I ignored most calls, but answered when Jennifer's name flashed on the screen. He's gone, she said without preamble. Cleared out his apartment overnight, left his phone behind. I closed my eyes. Any idea where? Probably Dad's place in the Hamptons. He always runs there when things get bad. She paused. Tatum, I know he deserved this, but he's your brother, I finished. I get it. Do you? Because this morning's article, It's not just Darren who looks bad. Dad's reputation is ruined too. The bell above the bakery door chimed. I looked up to see Clifford, Darren's father, walking in. He looked older than his 60 years, defeated. "Jennifer, I'll call you back." Clifford stood before the counter, taking in the renovated space. "Looks different," he said finally. "Better different or worse different?" "Just different." He met my eyes. "Like everything else these days." I gestured to a table. "Coffee?" He nodded, sinking into a chair while I brought over 2 cups and a plate of fresh croissants. We sat in silence for a moment, the morning sunlight streaming through the windows. "You've destroyed my family's name," he said finally. "Your son destroyed it himself. I just exposed the truth." "The truth?" He laughed bitterly. "The truth is, I pushed him too hard, expected too much, made him think success was everything. I hadn't expected this. Anger, yes. Threats, probably, but not regret. You raised him to be ruthless," I said. "He learned that lesson well." "I raised him to be successful." Clifford stared into his coffee. "I never taught him to be cruel. That part." He shook his head. "That's on him." The bakery was filling up with morning customers. I watched them line up, chatting and laughing, completely unaware of the drama unfolding at our table. "What do you want, Clifford?" "Want?" He looked around the bakery again. "I want to understand something. You've won. You've taken everything from him. Why reopen this place?" "Because this place matters." I broke a croissant in half, the buttery layers perfectly flaky. "Every recipe here has a story. Every customer is part of our community." Darren never understood that. He saw numbers, not people. "And you see both," Clifford said slowly. "That's why you're succeeding where he failed." My phone buzzed. Levi texting. "Board meeting in an hour. They want to discuss pressing charges." "Are you going to have him arrested?" Clifford asked, reading my expression. "That depends on him." I met his gaze. "The supplier kickbacks, the health code violations, those are serious charges. But if he cooperates with the investigation, tells the truth, you'd show mercy after everything? Not mercy, justice." I stood up. "Find him, Clifford. Tell him he has 24 hours to come forward voluntarily. After that, it's out of my hands." Clifford rose slowly. "You're a better person than we deserved, Tatum. This isn't about being better, it's about being right." After he left, I called Jennifer back. "Dad was just here," I said. "I know, he texted me." She sounded tired. "You're really giving Darren a chance to come clean?" "Yes, but Jennifer..." I paused. "Make sure he understands this is his last chance." "I will." She hesitated. "Thank you." I ended the call and walked behind the counter. Dad was there, teaching a new baker our signature sourdough technique. "Everything okay?" he asked, noting my expression. "I don't know." I picked up an apron. "Did I go too far?" He considered this while shaping a loaf. "Remember what Mom used to say about bread? The right amount of heat makes it rise. Too much burns it to ash." "Exactly." He smiled. "You applied just enough heat, honey. Now let's see if he rises or burns." The morning rush picked up, and I lost myself in the rhythm of the bakery, taking orders, greeting regulars, making change. This was real. This mattered. My phone buzzed again, Avery this time. "Police just called. Darren's at the station, ready to talk." I looked around the bakery, at the life and warmth filling the space that Darren had once tried to destroy. He'd thought taking it would break me. Instead, it had made me stronger, taught me the difference between revenge and justice. "Tell them I'll be there in an hour," I texted back. "Some things are more important than watching someone fall." I turned back to the customers, to the smell of fresh bread and coffee, to the sound of laughter and conversation. This was my empire now, built not on greed and betrayal, but on quality and community, and unlike Darren's, it would last. "He's ready to see you," the detective said, leading me down a sterile hallway to an interview room. Through the window, I could see Darren sitting alone at a table, his designer suit wrinkled, his face unshaven. "Remember," Avery whispered beside me, "let him talk. The more he says, the better our position." I nodded, took a deep breath and walked in. Darren didn't look up. "You look terrible," I said, sitting across from him. "Spending the night in a holding cell will do that." His voice was hoarse. "Happy now?" "No." I placed a file on the table. "But we can end this today if you're ready to be honest." He finally met my eyes. "Honest about what? How you orchestrated my downfall? How about we start with the health inspector you bribed to shut down the bakery?" His jaw tightened. "You can't prove that." "Actually," I pulled out a document. "He's already given a statement, along with 3 of your former suppliers who admitted to the kickback scheme." "They're lying. Are the bank records lying too?" I slid over another paper. "Or the emails, or the surveillance footage." Color drained from his face as he scanned the evidence. "How did you find it all? I learned from the best, remember? You taught me to be thorough." I leaned forward. "But unlike you, I'm offering a way out." "What way out? You've already won. Taken everything." "Sign a full confession, pay back the money you stole, testify against the others involved." I tapped the file. "Do that, and I'll recommend no jail time." He laughed bitterly. "Why would you do that?" "Because Jennifer asked me to." I watched his expression change at his sister's name. "She still believes there's something worth saving in you." The door opened and Jennifer walked in. Darren straightened immediately, trying to smooth his rumpled appearance. "Jen, you shouldn't be here." "Someone has to talk sense into you." She sat beside me. "The evidence is overwhelming, Darren. Take the deal." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Jennifer's voice cracked. "For once in your life, do the right thing." Silence filled the room. I could almost see the wheels turning in Darren's head, calculating angles, looking for escape routes. "Dad's reputation," he said finally. "This will destroy him." "Dad destroyed himself," Jennifer replied. "Just like you did, but he's ready to face it. Are you?" Darren slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him. "I never meant for it to go this far." "Tell me something," I said. "The bakery, why? You already had success. Why did you need to take it?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because you loved it more than me." The simple honesty of his answer hit me like a physical blow. "You were building this empire," he continued, "and the bakery was just this small, comfortable thing. I thought if I took it, made it part of something bigger." He shook his head. "I wanted you to see what I could create. Instead, you destroyed everything we had." "I know." He reached for the confession papers. "What happens after I sign?" "You step down from all remaining positions, pay restitution, give a full statement to the authorities." I slid him a pen. "And then you get help, Darren. Real help. And the company? We'll continue without you. We're already turning things around." He picked up the pen, then paused. "The old recipes, Mom's cinnamon rolls, the sourdough method. You're still using those?" "Of course. Some things shouldn't change." He signed the papers, his hand shaking slightly. Jennifer reached across and squeezed his arm. "I'll have someone drive you home," I said, gathering the documents. "Get some rest. Your lawyer will contact you about next steps." At the door, he called out, "Tatum." I turned back. "The bakery. You've made it better than it ever was. Even before." "I know." I met his eyes one last time. "Goodbye, Darren." Outside, Avery was waiting with the detective. He signed. I handed over the confession. "Everything you need is there." My phone buzzed, Dad texting, "Afternoon rush starting. Could use your help if you're done saving the world." "Go," Avery said, reading over my shoulder. "I'll handle the rest here." The drive back to Brooklyn felt longer than usual. By the time I walked into the bakery, the line was out the door. Dad was at the counter, flour on his apron, smile on his face. "Perfect timing," he said, tossing me an apron. "These good people need their bread." I tied on the apron, breathing in the familiar scents of yeast and butter. Through the window, I could see the afternoon sun painting the street gold. Customers chatted while they waited, the buzz of community filling the space. This was what winning really felt like, not destroying an enemy, but building something worth fighting for. Coming right up, I called to the waiting customers, rolling up my sleeves. There was work to be done, and I was ready to do it. "Ready?" Dad asked, adjusting his tie in the bakery's front window. "Almost." I placed the last fresh-baked loaf in the display case. The morning sun caught the golden crust, making it glow. Perfect. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Customers, reporters, and food critics, all waiting for our grand reopening ceremony. But this wasn't just about the bakery anymore. "They're here," Avery called from the door. Levi and Valeria walked in, followed by Jennifer. "No Darren?" I asked her quietly. She shook her head. "He's still at the treatment center, but he sent this." She handed me a card. Inside, his familiar handwriting, "Build it better than I ever could." "Time to start," Levi said, checking his watch. "You ready to announce the foundation?" I nodded, straightening my jacket. We'd planned this carefully. The bakery's reopening would also launch the Fresh Start Foundation, providing training and support for small food businesses. Funded by the restitution money from Darren's case, it felt like the perfect way to close this chapter. Dad opened the doors, and the crowd flowed in. Cameras flashed as I stepped behind the counter, not a podium, but the place where I felt most at home. "Welcome to Bradley's Bakery," I began. "Some of you might remember this place. Some of you might have read about its story. But today isn't about the past." I gestured to the walls, where photos hung showing the bakery's history, from my grandparents' opening day to my parents' wedding, to me as a child covered in flour. This place taught me something important. Success isn't just about profit margins or market share. It's about community, about creating something that matters. Valeria stepped forward, carrying a tray of fresh pastries. Which is why today, we're not just reopening a bakery, we're launching something new. I explained the foundation's mission, while Dad and Jennifer distributed bread samples. The reporters scribbled notes as I detailed our plans to help other small businesses avoid the pitfalls we'd faced. "The first grant," I announced, "will go to rebuilding Mario's Pizzeria in Queens, which nearly closed last month due to corporate pressure." Mario himself stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "This will save my family's business," he said. "Thank you." As the crowd mingled and celebrated, Levi pulled me aside. "The board approved the restructuring plan. Artemis Eateries will be officially renamed next week." "Good." I watched Dad teaching Mario's teenage son how to properly shape a pizza crust. Some traditions deserve to survive. Speaking of survival, Avery joined us. The prosecutor called. "Darren's making good progress. His therapist thinks he'll be ready for outpatient treatment soon." "And the company?" Levi asked. "Growing steadily," I said, "but sustainably this time. Quality over quantity." The bell above the door chimed and Clifford walked in. He looked uncertain until Jennifer waved him over. "I wasn't sure I should come," he said. "Of course you should." I handed him a warm cinnamon roll. "Mom's recipe. Your favorite, if I remember right." He took a bite, closing his eyes, just like she used to make. "Some things don't need improving," Dad said, joining us. "Just protecting." The morning passed in a blur of interviews, handshakes, and countless cups of coffee. Finally, as the crowd thinned, I found myself alone behind the counter, watching the last customers leave. "Quite a change from that Tuesday morning when everything fell apart," Avery said, perching on a stool. "Everything didn't fall apart," I corrected. "It just got rebuilt stronger." My phone buzzed. A text from Darren's treatment center. "Your brother-in-law asked us to share his progress report. 90 days sober, making amends." "Good news?" Avery asked, noting my smile. "Getting there." I put the phone away. "Hey, want to learn how to make sourdough? Dad's teaching a class tonight." "Me? Baking?" She laughed. "I burn microwave popcorn." "Everyone starts somewhere." I tossed her an apron. That's kind of the point of all this. The afternoon light slanted through the windows, catching the Fresh Start Foundation banner hanging above the door. Outside, life flowed past, people hurrying to meetings, couples walking hand in hand, kids racing home from school. Inside, the smell of fresh bread filled the air, warm and promising. Dad was showing Jennifer how to score the perfect crosshatch pattern on a loaf. Valeria and Levi argued playfully about the best way to knead dough. Even Clifford had rolled up his sleeves, flour dusting his expensive shirt. This was what winning really looked like, not destroying an enemy or building an empire, but creating a space where broken things could be made whole again, where every day brought a fresh start, a new chance to rise. I picked up a bag of flour, ready to begin the evening's lessons. Okay, everyone. First rule of sourdough: patience. Good things take time. And time, I'd learned, had a way of making things right.